So, good morning, friends. Very warm welcome to this very informal and sort of closed door consultation on IMEC, taking advantage of our some of the friends who are here in Delhi. It's a great pleasure for us to convene this meeting today in partnership with our institutions who have been partnering with RIS on issues related to IMAC, the ideas that are there for us to move forward, both in terms of identifying the priorities that IMAC should have, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, the geopolitics when it is converging with issues that are related in trade and economics. We are extremely delighted that we have possibilities of discussing multiple issues which are of great significance in IMAC, and how our follow-up meeting which we did with think tanks from the IMAC countries. So what RAS did around 10 months ago was to get all the think tanks of the IMAC region together. We had a meeting in Italy, in Bellagio, and we discussed issues which are of significance in terms of how we go forward. And this partnership is, as you are seeing, very much the SIOS, which is led by Ambassador Devray, who is also chairman of RIS Research Advisory Committee. So with them and with Mr. Sanjeev Ranjan, who has been playing a very active role in terms of taking that together, and our chairman, Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma, who was also, in a way, very favorably disposed in terms of deepening the work on IMAC. His point was to see how the SOPs would come up and what is it that we can gather out of the minds who are already here in Delhi for a much larger conference which Ministry of External Affairs and other entities are organizing, ORF is doing. So that part we thought would be important. We are very happy that we have Axel Berger, who is from RIS partner institution IDOS in Bonn in Germany, and Nicola, who has also been from SP partnering with us on issues that are related to the G20 and G7. So we worked very closely with SP and in Rome, and we could partner with the ID Jetro, and we are very happy that Akumo Asono-san is here with us. And this partnership with our institutions, our ideas that are there, and then we have tried to combine and get our national experts, our international voices. So I'm glad that Rajat Nag has joined us today, and we would be deepening this task forward. Friends and colleagues, as we move forward on regional integration across global economy, the idea is more in terms of how geography is being used to bring in greater dynamism. Economics of neighborhood we have discussed for long, but we now find that more and more efforts are being made to explore the triangular cooperation that is there among the countries which are very close and touching borders with each other. We found that happening in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore. We also find that the corridors which have come up, and that's the topic we have picked up for the first session, where we would explore how geography is actually delivering. And this is something which is being explored by different countries at different points of time to bring in greater dynamism across the countries which have shown greater willingness. And this is also something that World Bank has been taking forward in terms of supporting countries. Within India, we are seeing development corridors which are coming up across states. more and more allocations are being made to have these corridors established. Some of you might have seen almost 1800 crores have been sanctioned for the interstate corridors for transmission of electricity. So we are trying to see how energy is to be optimally utilized. We are seeing how the bandwidth of internet to deliver dimensions that we are interested in is to be leveraged. And we are also trying to see how the financial payment architecture can deliver. And this is something which is important in terms of the new aspirations that are there. The components of economic integration in the region is not bereft of geopolitics. Geopolitics is dominating the way infrastructure should be leveraged by countries. It is also getting dominated by the access to capital that is there. So, one fundamental principle that IMEC countries, though not formally evolved, but understanding that has come up among IMEC countries is that the financing of infrastructure would be done by the countries within their national territories. So, the idea that huge funding would be required, who would fund it, and then you find apprehensions coming up saying that this is not needed because who would fund it, where the money would come from. And the idea that leadership has come up with is that the national territory specific infrastructure would be taken up by the national governments, and Saudi Arabia was the first one to articulate that this infrastructure that they are developing, the four-lane highways that they are building from UAE further onwards, that would be taken care of by Saudi Arabia itself. So you find that the task that is left to the leaders and think tank community is largely to see the cost of movement that is there, because the modality is not simple shipping, it involves multimodal transmission, and that would have to see how cost of transaction is reduced, and from that point of view we would have to work out some details. Our idea is that multiple meetings like this would be required, not for the whole set of things, but even on one single theme. So RIS, under the direction from chairman, we have evolved a work plan to deepen dialogue across sectors. So this one is again a macro meeting, but very soon RIS would be also planning a slightly larger meeting with 2 or 3 parallel sessions where we would see what is required to be done. RIS also hosts a new center here at RIS. It is called CMEC, Center for Maritime Economy and Connectivity, which RIS has established with the Ministry of Shipping. And here we provided inputs in terms of the first agreement that has been signed under IMEC between India and UAE. Similar agreements are being worked out with other individual countries. So the SOPs that are needed for movement of cargo or for movement of ships within the IMEC framework would be important, and that part would help us resolve the challenges. The 2 countries from Europe who are also signatory to this are Greece and Italy. We find that think tanks from both the countries are also there. We find Germany and France, which are important in terms of endorsing the agreement along with the United States and EU. They would be important and would be contributing. So from this perspective, in today's discussion, we would be covering a large canvas and would be setting the tone for more sectoral dialogues. With this, I once again very warmly welcome each one of you to this deliberation and would now request Ambassador Sudhir Devre for his remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chaturvedi. Well, first of all, let me extend to you a very warm welcome to the conference on India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, New Hopes and New Opportunities. This is jointly organized by the Research and Information System RIS and the Society for Indian Ocean Studies. Well, as Dr. Chaturvedi just mentioned, we are really delighted that we have the presence here this morning of uh, experts from Germany, Japan, and Italy. Uh, Also, members from different organizations which are connected with this project, members of the governing body of the uh, Society of the Indian Ocean Studies, as well as from RIS. Well, the subject has been really um, catching a lot of imagination and discussion ever since the agreement on IMEC was signed in September 23 during the G20 summit. The subject deals with a very ambitious and a timely project which aims at linking the rapidly progressive areas India, the Middle East, and Europe. If you look at the historical times, one sees that traders, sailors, scholars, they have traversed from India to the present day Middle East through Red Sea, Mesopotamia, Egypt, and onwards to Europe. This has been captured in the recent excellent book, The Golden Road, which traces India's long historical connection with this region. Over the years, one sees that geopolitics may have changed, new technologies may have emerged, but geography continues to remain a constant. And therefore, IMEC is a new and continuing effort of our times to link up geographical spaces through modern technologies. I think we are trying to contemporize today's requirements, technology in the same space which from historical times mankind has been trying to retrace. And geopolitics and geoeconomics again are seen to be always chasing each other. The idea of IMEC also intersects both geopolitics and geoeconomics. There are strategic considerations of the players associated with this project. An alternative route to Suez, which will circumvent conflict areas, Red Sea, Houthis, Egypt, and I don't know, so many, what are the various considerations which the uh, players in the IMEC have, providing for a faster and more beneficial transportation. That is what the IMEC seems to stand for. Providing connectivity. I think that is the watchword nowadays used across the world. The countries of Asia and Europe, which are parties to this project, are also seen to be developing close political equation. IMEC can also be described as a kind of a progression of the I2U2 initiative. At the G20 summit, as I mentioned in September 23, IMEC agreement was signed by the leaders of the US, Europe, Middle East, and India. Recently, President Trump, President Macron, PM Modi, they have all endorsed it. Other leaders as well from Europe. IMEC is a visionary concept. It encompasses the idea of an economic corridor. Well, see, economic corridor is larger concept than just the physical corridor. A physical corridor is just a kind of a transit route through which goods and services can travel. But an economic corridor would try to put together not only the physical part, but try to bring in the utilization of local resources using local manpower thus creating a kind of a pathway for economic and larger integration between the two areas which are connected. And this is not a new concept. We have been trying to actually do this for some time. Europe tried that first between between EU and among EU countries. ASEAN have been doing it. In India, we have been trying to do that with Southeast Asia. So this is a kind of a concept which I think IMEC really, I would think, will be now progressing. And this will, of course, include not just physical infrastructure as railways, shipping, ports, pipelines for oil and gas, clean hydrogen, electric grid, optic high speed cables, and so on. But also, as I said, the utilization of local resources and so on. So it doesn't remain only a transit route, but a means for all round connectivity and economic integration. The conceptualization and further progress on this project would require close consultation and thorough preparation of various aspects with all the stakeholders. And the subject of investment, which Dr. Chaturvedi just now mentioned, I think will really weigh very high, very large on the minds of the IMEC leaders, because this will obviously require huge investments, and most countries, even the rich countries, are in no position to really put forward that kind of investment today. But as he suggested, if it is going to be restricted to the national territories, it can be one way to resolve this problem. And Saudi Arabia, through which I think the largest infrastructure would be passing, namely both roads as well as railway network, uh, if they are willing to undertake that, I think then the route from India all the way up to Israel and then beyond through the Asian Sea, I think will be complete. So this is, of course, this is an area which we'll have to deal as we come to that aspect later. We are grateful that RIS, the leading think tank of India, is engaged in this process. They already held a dialogue with experts at Bellagio in Italy a few months ago, and now have agreed to have this meeting with our Society for Indian Ocean Studies. This is an institute which was set up in 1987, and it has been engaged in study of Indian Ocean and maritime studies ever since. The Indian Ocean and the countries on its littoral are the key links of the IMEC project. I do hope we will have useful and productive deliberations on the IMEC idea at today's conference. Thank you.
Let me now invite Chairman RIS, Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma, for his remarks.
Thank you, Director General. Good morning to all of you, distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, scholars, and participants, Ambassador Devre. All of you are subject matter experts, I am not. So let me give you my views as an outsider to the entire concept. It is truly an honor to stand before you and share my thoughts on India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. I'm sure that forthcoming sessions will facilitate thought-provoking discussions, exchange valuable insights, and explore the immense potential that IMEC holds for global trade, connectivity, and economic collaborations. I'm confident that the seminar will be more than just a discussion on policy and infrastructure. It would take a deep dive into the future of global partnerships. The deliberations would reaffirm that IMEC is not just an ambitious idea, but a transformative initiative. One that will reduce the barriers one that will redefine trade routes, enhance supply chain resilience, and create new economic opportunities for millions. For centuries, India, the Middle East, and Europe have been connected through trade, through culture, and of course, shared civilizational exchanges. IMEC is not merely about construction of roads, railways, and ports. It is about re-establishing these historical linkages in a modern context. This corridor represents a bridge, one that connects economies, societies, and overall aspirations. At its core, IMEC is a platform for inclusive growth, a means to reduce economic disparities, facilitate technology transfer, and foster deeper collaboration across businesses, institutions, and communities. It will not only open new trade routes, but also create pathways for knowledge, innovation, and collective progress. It will reinforce a more interconnected and cooperative world. As we know, we are in an era of shifting global power dynamics, and IMEC stands as a bold step forward toward a more multipolar, multi-aligned, and resilient world order. By providing an alternative route for trade, it offers greater diversification, ensuring that global supply chains remain stable even amidst geopolitical uncertainties. For India, this corridor strengthens its strategic engagement with both the Middle East and Europe, positioning it as a key player in global economic diplomacy. It also presents an opportunity for all participating nations to reduce dependencies and foster mutually beneficial partnerships. IMEC, in a sense, is not just a trade initiative. It's a symbol of connectivity, cooperation, and a shared vision for the future. From an economic perspective, IMEC has the potential to revolutionize global trade by providing a faster, more cost-effective, and sustainable route for trading goods and services. The integration of multimodal transportation, seamlessly combining rail, road, and maritime networks, will certainly significantly cut down transit times, reduce costs, and enhance the ease of doing business. Beyond infrastructure, as has been pointed out by other speakers as well, IMEC will serve as a catalyst for growth in sectors such as energy, technology, manufacturing, and logistics. It will generate employment, drive skill development, and accelerate industrialization in all partner nations. As digital trade and smart logistics gain momentum, IMEC will help usher in a new era of entrepreneurship, innovation, economic modernization, benefiting businesses and communities alike. With this chapeau, let me talk a little bit about the sectoral emphasis which I see IMEC should be putting its nose on. It is set to become a key driver of trade and investment across multiple sectors, enhancing economic cooperation, and of course, strengthening supply chain. Some of the key sectors which I would suggest should be deliberated upon includes, of course, infrastructure and logistics, but not just connectivity, but also the technology-driven infrastructure and logistics. Can we talk of high-speed railway networks? Can we talk of modern ports, and not just the ports? Can we talk of intermodal hubs to reduce transit times? Can we talk of digital interface to these ports and other logistics means? Smart logistics also leads to smart warehousing. Can we look at warehousing through the corridor right from India up to the endpoint of IMEC? These warehouses should be trade facilitative and automated. When energy was mentioned, oil and natural gas comes to mind naturally. But what would happen to green hydrogen of the future, other renewable energy sources? This will not only need the production and storage, it will also need connectivity through the grid. So should not we also discuss grid connectivity in order to evacuate the energy after they are being produced in various geographies. In the manufacturing sector, let's look at the advanced manufacturing and industry 4.0. Smart factories, robotics, automation-driven production systems. As India is the factory for pharmaceuticals for the world, can we look at pharmaceutical and medical equipment, strengthening medical supply to ensure uninterrupted access to essential medical services? India is also a hub for textile and apparels. Can we connect from very narrow India's national perspective, leveraging its strength in textiles with European markets for sustainable fashion and technical textiles? Digital economy and trade, fintech has already started playing a huge role in our economic transition. Can we make this fintech get deeper into the corridor and take it forward? When we talk of fintech, when we talk of data, when we talk of technology, cybersecurity and data governance are not too far. So therefore, this corridor should also initiate discussions on data governance and cybersecurity. When any economic corridor develops, there is always a possibility of development of smart cities along the corridor. Can we also discuss development of smart cities along the corridor and see how we can use our technologies which are existing and the future in order to leverage those technologies in creating smart cities all across the corridor? Agriculture and food security is basic need. Some of the countries along this pathway are good at agriculture, both primary and secondary. Can we also look at agriculture in order to promote overall sustenance of IMEC? Particularly when we look at the countries along the corridor, cold chain logistics come to the mind immediately. Can we also discuss through various sessions the cold chain logistics in this context? So IMEC, as I see, is not just a trade route, it's a platform for sectoral growth. It's a platform for innovation and sustainable economic development. Let me touch upon a very important area for Global South: democratization of technology. Yes, we will deploy a lot of technologies, but one of the most transformative aspects which I see will be IMEC's role in democratizing technologies, making cutting-edge advancements more accessible across the corridor and, of course, beyond. IMEC should become a tool to further improve and strengthen the cooperation amongst Global South and, of course, with the Global North. By facilitating the seamless transfer of knowledge, best practices, and digital innovations, IMEC will act as a testing ground for next generation technologies that can later be scaled and implemented in other regions. Infrastructure, when we talk of it and we develop it, and I know there are subject matter experts on infrastructure here, but what I look at infrastructure is smart infrastructure. How can we use the existing technology to make the infrastructure more smart and usable by all stakeholders to take things forward? People-to-people connect, which was already talked about, is very important all through the corridor, given our historical linkages. But when we talk of people-to-people connect, the very core of it is the mobility of people. And when we talk of mobility, the businesses are not too far. Can we discuss about Mode 4 mobility in this context? The digital transformation of IMEC will remain very important. Financing was discussed. I'll just share some of my views on financing. Public-private partnership was important in different models, and it will remain important even in the future. Sovereign and multilateral financing becomes important, and we know that we have someone who is here from World Bank as well, because not only for financing needs, but also to make it viable for a larger global integration. There we have to look at the MDBs, there we will have to look at bilateral regional cooperation funds, there we will have to look at bonds and green financing. FDIs in some of the countries along the corridor will play a huge role. Can we look at how to converge the FDI regimes, foreign direct investment regimes, in the countries which are along the corridor in order to have a more seamless foreign direct investment inflow into the zone, both from those who are the parties to IMEC, but also from those who are not. Export credit agencies should also be an agenda for discussion, because after all, many of these countries on the corridor would need some kind of export credit guarantees. And where do we go there? Blended finance, guarantee mechanism, and insurance, those things I'm sure will be discussed in coming sessions. Since we are largely from NGOs or think tanks here, we should also deliberate upon what is the role of think tank or NGOs in order to proceed further with the IMEC, and how the NGOs can provide inputs which most of the governments sitting in their own citadels may not be able to do. So from the think tank's point of view, I would suggest to address regulatory challenges and advocating best practices. In the conclusion, I see that this seminar has brought together some of the brightest minds from policy, business, academia, and industry. And I'm sure each of you will be collaborating and contributing to the present discussion on making IMEC feasible, viable, and more relevant to the world. I extend my heartfelt appreciations to all those who will be participating in the forthcoming sessions, panelists, and participants. I also commend both RIS and SIOS for taking this initiative and organizing this very important exchange of views and ideas so that we can move forward from here. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you all for your participation. I look forward to seeing the tangible outcomes of our collective efforts. Wishing you all the success in your endeavors and deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Ambassador Verma, for your remarks and for setting the tone for the day. And I think we are now having the broad contours defined for our discussion. Would take it forward. We have few minutes, so very quickly we would have a break for tea and come back sharp at 10:15 for our next session. Thank you.